In today's episode, we're going to be talking about how to build an online audience and turn it into a massive amount of money. And this means social media, email marketing, how to get yourself out across multiple channels and get people following you everywhere.
Welcome to Thriving Launch with Louise Congdon and Kamala Chambers, the show for heart-centered entrepreneurs who want it all.
5 days a week, we bring you different segments to inspire you to live a life of freedom. We interview the leading experts in the field of business, health, and love. Be sure to check out Training Tuesdays, where we give you a clear action plan to grow your own business.
Do you have a product or service that you would like to sell online? Or maybe you've been thinking about it, but you're reserved to do it because you need a website, you need complicated systems, and you need to spend money? Well, I've created a completely free course that teaches you how to use Facebook in a purely organic way. This means no ads and no money are needed. You can use Facebook completely free. So head on over to thrivinglaunch.com, opt into my Profit from Social Media course. I'm going to teach you the free methods to using Facebook to make money today. Today's guest is Diane Hochman. She's the founder of the Home and Small Business Network. It's a worldwide organization that has grown to be one of the largest small business organizations. The amazing thing about Diane is she's built a business from her home while raising kids, while being married. She is a regular person just like you and me, and she's figured out a way to thrive. So without further ado, it's my pleasure to welcome Diane Hochman to Thriving Launch. Diane, so awesome to have you here on the Thriving Launch podcast. Are you ready to launch?
I am ready to launch.
Awesome. So today we're going to talk about email marketing and social media.
Well, yeah, basically how to dominate all the channels out there and build your audience and turn it into a massive amount of money. So what do we do to make that even happen? Like, what's your first tip?
I know everybody listening, we're wondering, how do we do that?
Well, it's interesting. The first thing we need to do is kind of just get to know the landscape that we're entering into. Every social media platform has a different language. It has a different medium. It has a different culture. And then additionally, every space, we all work in different spaces. Every space has a different culture. So we want to spend a little time. I know everybody's in a rush, but I recommend everybody spends a little time, set up those accounts, and start to study the influencers in the space and start to see how are people communicating, what's the medium, and what's the best way to get access to the people that you want to become your audience.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this is such an important point because we can basically take the same content that we're putting out. I love posting on Facebook. That's my favorite place to post. But I can take that post and turn it into an email. I can turn it into a tweet. I can turn it into an Instagram post and Google Plus. It can go across all the different channels and just tweaked. What's your thoughts on that, Diane?
You absolutely can, and we certainly can use certain tools. For example, if I post on Facebook, I can have it head over to Twitter. Or if I post on Instagram, I can have it come over to Facebook. And there's so many different ways to put that together. But what I like most is the average person that's in our space, they're playing on multiple platforms. Snapchat is the hot new one, Instagram, they're on multiple platforms. And people judge, it's just our DNA. We judge based upon size and number. We judge based upon the number of times we see someone. So when somebody is on Facebook in the morning and then they head over to Instagram in the afternoon on their coffee break and they're seeing you again, and they're seeing different content and different interaction again, it makes them automatically see you as more prominent and, quite frankly, more trustworthy.
Yeah, there's something about repetition that creates trust.
Big time. Big time.
That's a really great point. It kind of reminds me of a study that I saw once about, most people that are in a relationship tend to meet each other at work. And there's something about that consistency. And it's the same thing with building your business.
Exactly. So when we're, I call it being ever present. It's like the Beatles songs here, Beatles song here, there, and everywhere, and yet nowhere at the same time. Because if you're too like, you don't want to be like that chick at home with 17 cats posting on social media every 32 seconds. That's probably not what you want people to perceive you as. You want to be perceived as all over and yet not trying too hard. And there's a lot of ways to create that energy around your content.
Well, I'm interested. I mean, aren't you guys interested in finding out what do you mean by that?
Well, when we're creating content, whether it's a video, whether it's a written piece, whether it's, an article, a blog post, micro content, Twitter is really micro content. A lot of what we put on Facebook is micro content, little snippets, memes, etc. We're able to take those different pieces of content and twist them in different ways depending on where we're going to use it. So I might make a meme with a quote or something I said or something cool. And then I might take that and turn it into a quick video. It takes seconds to do a voiceover. And I might be taking this piece. So it might be a tiny little piece for Instagram, but then I might take it and turn it into a blog post, the same concept, and it could be extensive. And I might take the same idea and turn it into a video or maybe even a podcast or maybe even a blab or something where I'm talking about the same concept. So people are seeing me all over taking an idea and spreading it, but I'm just kind of twisting it around depending on the medium so that it's consumable. And I think that's the key word, consumable to the audience in the particular platform that they're on.
This is a really important piece because we have to really figure out what is the environment of the platform that we're using. Because if I were to post the same way I post on Twitter, if I were to do that on my Facebook page, people would absolutely hate me. I mean, because with Twitter, the lifespan of a tweet is 24 minutes. And we put something on there, and then Luis and I, will post 30 minutes later, and 30 minutes after that, and 30 minutes after that. But on Facebook, it's more about personality and making that connection. What do you find around that, Diane?
I 100% agree. And, there's this big myth out there. They say that people don't have an attention span anymore and they won't watch anything that's more than a minute or they won't read anything that's more than a couple of sentences. But I really disagree with that because if you look at some of the major players out, on the internet, what they have is content that's very consumable. People can take it in a quick second, but then they develop this audience that loves them, that's hungry for more. And then they'll come listen to the hour-long podcast. Then they'll come watch that video. They won't miss a word that falls from your lips when you've developed them properly and taken them from a quick snippet of an idea into the development of the idea.
I really like that. Now, what do we want to do with, there's all these different ways that people are making money from social media, email marketing, and across all these different platforms. I want to hear the Diane special. What is it that you recommend for taking content and actually turning it into cash?
It's funny. There's a old marketing school lesson where, a bunch of students are tasked with setting up a hot dog cart and they have to sell the most hot dogs and there's different teams. And I could go through the whole thing, but the bottom line is that the team that wins pulls up their hot dog cart in front of a nightclub that's getting out at 2:00 in the morning and there's no other food around. They put their cart in front of a hungry audience. So the big secret is knowing your audience and knowing what they're already buying, in my opinion, because if people are already buying certain things, why not show them more? Why not show them, get to know them and show them the things that they're naturally looking for? A lot of people spend a lot of time, Kamala, trying to convince people to buy the thing that they want to sell. Where if you develop an audience and find out what they're buying, you just put what they're buying in front of them and it's easy peasy.
It kind of makes me think of a talk by Dan Kennedy where he said, a lot of people get this idea that they're going to start a business simply because they're passionate about something and they go out and they do the work and they create a product and then come to find out nobody wants to buy that.
Yep. It's so common. And the secret to the internet, and I think it's so cool, especially today. I mean, I've been doing this for 16 years. So when I hear people bellyache about how hard it is today, I laugh. I'm like, you have hashtags, you have search. I mean, Twitter search alone, you can locate tons of people that are talking about anything. If you wanted to talk about toe rings and you wanted to sell toe rings, you could find thousands of people that are talking about toe rings today. So it's not hard. It's just a matter of really starting to think like a merchant. And merchants stock things on their shelves that people want to buy. That's the nature of being a merchant.
You're definitely making me think of something else too with Russell Brunson, where he says where people congregate, there are buyers. So we need to find where they congregate. There's this other problem where people create a product, they do all the work, and it's probably a very viable product. I mean, nowadays you can almost sell anything. I've known people who do dog therapy over the phone with people's dogs that make a great living, which to me is like kind of crazy. I love my dog. Don't get me wrong. Like I'm a big fan of my dog. Kamala
Tell
will
me
tell
more
you.
about how your bone got lost.
But
I have a cat. My cat needs therapy. If you find a cat therapist, let me know, 'cause that cat's messed up. I'm telling you right now. My daughter's
aren't
gonna be
all
mad at me.
cats messed up?
My daughter's going to kill me for saying that in public, but it's true. The cat's funky, man.
So we need to find where people are at, and a lot of people will go create the product and then just market it to their inner circle, and those people don't want that thing. So you have to get out there and be in front of the people that maybe you've never met or prospected to before, but you need to find where those people are getting together and chatting. And like you said, Twitter is a fantastic place to do that. Facebook, you can go in there and you can search people who like cats, people who like toe rings, and it'll pull up every single
People who
post.
like cats and toe rings.
Oh,
That's the search
cat
you
toe rings. That's niche-y.
And the funny thing is, you could find that if it existed, and there may be one or two weirdos out there, but if you search Twitter and use the graph, you can find that. I mean, not Twitter, but Facebook, you can find that information. That never existed before. It's so freaking cool that we can go find people that live in Kenosha, Wisconsin, that like pickles, So, and then the secret is then taking them and creating a hub or a place for them to gather, whether it's your email list, whether it's your blog, whether it's your podcast, setting up a place where people that are, I'm going to put in make quotes with my fingers that nobody can see, like-minded, right? Like-minded with quotes, people can get together, because there's nothing that people like better than to be around other people that dig what they dig. And there's nothing they like better than to talk about what they bought that has to do with what they love. So all you do is get a bunch of them together and show them more things that they love, and the rest is history. It's over. It's over.
Now, let's use an example of how we go from putting out content on the internet. I know all of you listening, you're on Twitter, you're on Facebook, you're on Instagram, one of those platforms at least. And okay, you're putting out content all the time, but nobody's buying. Yeah. So, Diane, how do we go from just putting out the content to actually making a sale? And now we've had some great interviews with like Marcy Locke, who's making 6 figures a month from Facebook without ads. We've had a lot of different interviews on this, but I want to hear, what would you say as an example of one way you can start making those pitches?
Well, I think we need to back up before we get into the pitch, and we have to look at the audience. Because just creating content, if a tree falls in the woods and nobody hears it, did it really fall at all? If you write a blog post and nobody read it, did you really write it at all? We have to think about, we have 3 tasks that we need to be doing daily. One is we need to meet minimum 10 people in the space that we want to go out and dominate. Okay, we need to go out, and we can do that very easily. It's very easy to meet people. If we don't have a sales agenda, we're just meeting and connecting with people like us guys. We met and we connected, and here we are in the podcast because we found we had common interest and things that we could share to help people with. Here we are. We met. We didn't have a commercial agenda. We just met. We need to be out meeting people every single day, and particularly looking to see who are the influencers, who already has the audience or the type of audience that would like to develop. So this way, as we're meeting people and we're connecting people, we can funnel them and invite them into whatever our hub is going to be. Invite them to watch our podcast, to listen to our podcast, invite them to come to our email, newsletter, invite them to frequent our blog and comment or maybe guest post so that we can get them really involved in what we have going on. And then we want to make sure we're putting out that content every day. So this way, what's happening now is our content is being consumed as opposed to just creating a piece. We need to start developing people to consume and share what we've been saying. And if our stuff is any good, and I'm sure everybody's stuff is good, if they're really putting themselves into it, now all of a sudden it starts to take on steam. It starts to take on energy. And we get back to the concept of serving and developing the audience. And when you do, it's really easy to make a recommendation. I mean, right now, if you guys told me some cool podcast program or course or something that you put together or whatever, and I was interested.
The podcaster's secret weapon, of course.
I had a fun feeling. Why did I know? So let's say and we're hanging out and we're having a good time and I'm thinking about doing a podcast. If you make a recommendation, I'm just going to go check it out. Not because it feels like you're trying to hook me or sell me or get me, but because it feels like you have knowledge in a space. It feels like you're knowledgeable about what you're doing and you would be an expert that I could turn to look to for, assistance with developing that part of my business. So when you have an audience and you're really looking to serve the audience and help them out and train them and teach them and give them ideas and support them, it's very easy to then say, hey, by the way, I just found this. Whether it's an affiliate product or whether it's something you put together yourself. Hey, I just put together a course. We're going to be launching it, but we have a pre-launch special. Our good friend Ben Settle just recently did one. He had like a kind of little, a good, little deal on his new course that came out. And he sends it out to his audience first. And then he goes out and he'll do his advertising or whatever he wants to do to take it to a higher level. So the audience, when you've been serving them, they don't perceive that pitch as a pitch. And that's the magic. In fact, a lot of times they run out and start sharing what you've put together or want to become affiliates and do business with you and share your stuff, and make it mutually beneficial. So it's pretty cool. Most people want to go straight to the pitch. I guess that's the point of my ramble right there. You can't go straight to the pitch. You have to start with service.
This is absolutely true. I mean, it's about looking for those ways that we can serve, we can help, we can support people, and just continuing to add value. And I think one thing that I notice is if I'm giving education away, people don't respond to that. And maybe it's my market. People don't respond to just raw education even as much as they respond to vulnerability. So that's the way my market really responds, So I try and push myself a lot to be more vulnerable, and people actually, that's where they get the real gold. That's where they get the real juice. So I think the point is find where your audience is most responsive. Is it from you sharing pictures about your weight loss journey? Is it from you sharing your emotional journey? Is it you sharing raw education? Whatever it is, find what your audience is responding to most. Now, I absolutely love where you're going with all this. What else do we need to know? What else do we need to know as an audience to come away and start to make massive money online from all these different platforms?
You just hit on something just so critical. It's the concept of storytelling, whether you want to talk about it, showing vulnerability or showing the reality of life. We're moving into a new era. When I started on the internet, it was straight up, there was a couple of websites. Nobody knew how to build a website. It was, back in the day. And then Web 2.0, what we call social media today, came out and people started to become more visible. And then all of a sudden we went into a stage where everybody had to have a video studio and this studio, and they had to have professional photos and they had to have, all this stuff to try to look pro. And we're moving into a real place of transparency and trust, and I hope people write that down, transparency and trust. And audiences all over, they're tired of the slick. They're tired of people trying to convince you of something. Or I work in the home business market. So there's a lot of, I rented a hot car and I'm standing in front of a mansion that doesn't belong to me type of, that type of photography and stuff from the past. And now people they want to know that you're a real person. They want to know that you were out with your kids this afternoon. They want to see snippets of your life, and they're desperately seeking someone they can trust. And when you develop that and let them see who you really are and they come to trust you, making offers, you can, I mean, on my list, I probably make an offer every single day. And yet I've had people on my list for 8, 9 years, and they come back every single day and open every single day. And it's simply because they trust me. It doesn't feel like that pitch. They know what's going on in my life. They know where I'm going. They know where I'm traveling. They know what's happening. And they buy what they need from me repeatedly.
This makes me want to get a little personal with you here, because I know that you've been sitting here listening to us talk about all these different methods to get your clientele and how to use social media. And one of the chats that we had with Vicki Irvin was where she mentioned that we can, just focus on one platform at a time, and then grow into another one and grow into another one. Because when we first start, we're not going to be able to, do all of them.
Oh, sure.
But the other thing too that you're bringing me to is this whole pitching thing. And I know that, guys, we're listening to Diane talk and we're thinking, okay, pitching, that for some of us, that's like, yeah, that's awesome. I love closing and I love pitching. And for some of us, it's a little scary, and I just want to remind you that pitching is not so much this kind of like salesy, full on, like, a car salesman trying to push something on you that you don't want, or one of those guys that comes and knocks on your door. A pitch can be simply talk about something that you have going on in your life, a product that you're excited about, and you're sharing a gift with people. People will thank you for pitching them. And some people may not like you for it, and that's up to them. Maybe they shouldn't be in your circle. Maybe they shouldn't be watching what you're up to if they don't like knowing about the awesome opportunities that you have to share with them.
It's funny. I think of my business like a corner store. I grew up in New York City, and when I got big enough, I was able to go down to the corner store. And when you come in to the store today, even I shop at a particular boutique an awful lot. All the girls know me. I know all of them. I know their kids, their grandkids, everything. I walk in the store and they'll go, "Oh my gosh, Diane, something just came in. It's so you. Let me run to the back and show it to you." I don't feel like they're pitching me. I feel like they're serving me. I feel like they're saying, "Oh, this is perfect for you." And that's what I'm doing. And that's what the corner store always did. It stocked what the neighborhood needed. It stocked what the people in the neighborhood were buying or looking for. So if I say, "Oh my gosh, I just found this new software. It makes videos in 3 seconds. If you don't enjoy being on camera, but you want to do video marketing, you got to check this out. It's really reasonable and it's really easy to use." I'll make 100 sales from the one email in 2 minutes. But it's because I found something that would be helpful to the audience. And we can develop the audience. And I love what Vicki said, start in one place. I think of it as people, not, whether it's on Twitter or whether it's on Facebook. The same people go on all the platforms. So I'm developing relationship with them in different places. But in the end, it's my job to go out and find things that the people that I've developed relationships would find helpful. When you do that, nobody's ever upset. And if they are, well, then they don't belong with you. But it's so easy to go out and find things that people want and need. So easy.
Mm-hmm. I agree. And that's cool what you're mentioning about the same people are generally kind of in these other platforms. And that's something that, as you said that's so true. I mean, yeah, there are some people that, specifically like to follow me on Twitter, and that's more their area, or Facebook or whatever it might be. But a lot of times what I notice is I'll log into one space of social media into another one, and it's like the same 10, 15 people commenting and liking, and it's the same 10 or 15 people going, "Yeah, I just bought that product because Luis is so great."
That's it. So wherever you talk to them is wherever you talk to them. It's the same like the girls from the boutique. If they ran into me down at the end of the mall somewhere else, they wouldn't not talk to me. So just because we're not in their normal environment, it's just so cool because the internet allows us to just kind of roam around neighborhoods and get to know the people in different neighborhoods and get to serve different neighborhoods through the relationships that we make with the leaders in the other neighborhoods. So it's really not that complicated when we step back and just take it down to humanity as opposed to technology.
I love that. What you're sharing is so real. And Guys, Diane's going to be going into this stuff a lot deeper at a really fantastic event. It's called Biz Brews. We've been talking about it this month. We talked about it last month. Now, you've listened to Vicky Irvin, Ryan Stewman, Ben Settle, Jody. You've listened to so many different people drop so many value bombs. They're all going to be at Biz Brews. They're live at the event. But here's the cool thing. No other event rivals or matches this. They're going to be available for you to hang out with them. Now, I don't know any event where that really happens because most of the time speakers show up, they talk, and then they fly out or they stay in their hotel rooms and they don't actually really do a whole lot of mingling. But you're going to get an opportunity to come and hang out with us, have a beer with us, or in the case of me and Kamala, have a kombucha or some tea because we don't drink. But you're going to get to hang out with us.
I might be drinking.
Will you be documenting the behavior at this event?
I don't know. I think I might join them. I might have a beer.
She might break her own rules. So there you have it. There's going to be some debauchery, some craziness, and a lot of education at Biz Brews. Head on over to thrivinglaunch.com to get the links for everything. Some special discounts happening. Head on over to thrivinglaunch.com and we'll have tons of goodies there for you.
Can I make a true confession about the event?
Uh-oh.
Yes.
Uh-oh. You're hearing it live first here on the Thriving Launch podcast.
But the true confession for me about this event is when I first heard about this event and I saw who was going to be there, I weaseled my way into getting Jody, because Jody was saying she was having a hard time. This is when she was first putting it together. She said, I'm looking for some women, and I weaseled my way in, and I used my relationships with a couple people to weasel my way, because this event and who's going to be there, the caliber of the speakers is silly. So, I mean, I'm going to be there, obviously, helping teach the crowd, but I'm also going to be there as a student and also as a consumer of beverages. Maybe I'll try that kombucha.
Kombucha on tap all night. Well, Diane,
Hold on. Last thing, Diane.
You're a big name, so for you to weasel your way in, that's amazing.
But I'm a different. Let's put it this way. I talked about spaces and communities. So my community it overlaps a little bit with a lot of the folks who are going to be at this event. So I did weasel. I admit it, big time.
Now, before we leave, people on social media right now are asking about what the heck is the fart bank. Now, guys, you're here, you're listening, you're going to find out. But for all the rest of the people that have been following on social media, doing exactly as Diane mentioned, I'm going on Twitter and Facebook and people are asking me, what is a fart bank? Can you tell us? Oh, that is just nasty.
Jeez. Diane, a wealth of information and farts.
My sister, the Navy captain, gave me this gift. It's a long story. We'll have to do another episode, another day. Thriving Launch, have me back. I'm dying.
All right.
Fart bank story. But let's just put it this way. You're going to have to find me on social media to find out about the fart bank. So,
well, we'll make sure to include those links over there. Thanks so much for being on the show, Diane.
It's such a pleasure. I can't wait to see you guys in a few weeks.
See the rest of you guys over at thrivinglaunch.com. Thank you so much for coming on the show today, Diane.
You've been listening to the Thriving Launch podcast. For books and resources related to today's episode, make sure to head over to thrivinglaunch.com. We'll see you there.
Be sure to listen to our next episode where we talk with Dr. John Gray. Men are from Mars, women are from Venus. Is it true? And what are the biggest differences between men and women? All that and more on our next episode. And of course, as usual, be sure to subscribe to our show on iTunes. We'd love to have you subscribe to the show and get regular updates.